This is Vaughan. We just took a nice lunchtime walk to East Berlin in Nova Scotia. That's Jackie up in the distance over there. And this is a very secluded place. And the nearest place for the name is called East Berlin. Hi, it's Vaughan in Nova Scotia.ca, westcoatbellpottery.ca, and I'm going to do a quick video on how to make a berry ball with a little plate underneath it to catch any water. And I've done something similar in the past, but I'm going to refine how I do this now for any new, because we've got a lot of new subscribers too. But anyway, in my history there are 360 videos. If you go into YouTube, go to my homepage and then click on videos, there's one every night of the year now. So enjoy taking care of those, and there's a lot. It's a lot of knowledge there, so it's worth, if you could, want something to do, especially in the long winter months. So it's, my YouTube homepage, click videos and enjoy yourself. All right, so berry balls. So always make sure you start with a damp wheel head. And I have here just under a pound of clay, and I don't bother banging it into a ball. Just hammer it down and make yourself a plate, which involves centering the clay. I just did a video on how to center clay, so you should be able to go back and watch that video. It's only posted like a week ago, I think, maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. Anyway, it's about centering and pulling a wall. So a plate is the simplest of all, because you simply make a pancake, keep the wheel spinning fairly fast, but don't let the clay dry out, so it involves letting go slowly and then putting your pressure back on until you've got what you think is a nice sized plate. And I use a rubber rib to just go onto that and flatten it completely, and don't go too thin either. And then just for a wall, little finger under the edge, middle finger on the other hand opposite, push in a touch and just lift yourself a little bit of a wall, so you've got something to catch the water. And I always compress the rim a little bit. And then use your sponge to actually round over it, smooth it off and everything. And use the point of the rib to actually get that water out. So that's pretty easy. When you're glazing things upside down, it's nice to have a little thing you can grip on the foot area. So I pushed that in the other way, and I've now created, I'll show you in a second, an undercut where I can put my fingernails under when I'm actually glazing, to actually grip it upside down. So that there's a little undercut there, if you can just see it, where I'll grip and hold the plate upside down, which I can then splash it into the surface of glazes to get some different patterns in the glaze pattern. This is about 2¼ to 2½ pounds of clay. So I rounded off the bottom, I bang it down, get it as nice as possible, and then put my left hand in. It's a bigger piece of clay, so I've got to wedge my hand in. Since I have this wheel next to a wall, I have this wall there that stops me from my arm from banging in and out, so I can push with a little bit more pressure easier with this elbow wedged into the wall there. Now, larger balls of clay, it's often a good idea to just push in and cone it to stretch the clay a little, and then push it back down. I mostly don't do that, but I also know what I'm doing. So for beginners, I would recommend the coning thing. And then it goes into center, and you let go slowly. It's a bowl, so we're going to I put my finger together like that, so I can press my middle finger with my other finger behind a little easier, and I leave a thicker base on my berry balls than I normally would. Pull it out, let go slowly, compress the center, and you've got a nice base inside the bowl. Then I change fingers. This was all done this side, and now we go to the other side, and you put fingers pressed in, and you put, like I just did with my pulling a wall video, my middle finger is backing up some pressure on the inside. You can see that little bit of clay there, and there's a lot more pulled off on this side. Water on both sides, in again, press with those outside fingers, and then start a wall pull. You're going for the water to on the pot wall is now, I'm chasing it all the way up. One revolution, one finger width higher, and then coming to the top, I start letting go to leave the top a little thicker. It's a berry ball, so it's going to get a little bit of banging probably. A colander is another word for it. Water dribbled inside and outside. My two fingers there, I make sure I press in there, and that's my bottom because it's going to be raised up a bit, and then I pull from the bit right above there, and then that thicker area on top, I don't thin that at all, I just bend it out a little bit, like I do for my noodle balls. And then water softens clay, so we get this off as fast as possible. And then using my metal rib, I do the same on the outside. Get the water off so it doesn't soften the clay anymore. This clay is 516 from Pottery Supply House. So we've got the water off. I could do the same on the inside a little bit if I want to, just to kind of, the rib has a nice curve to it, so I can drag the clay off in the upper mountains and leave it a bit in the valleys, but if you put a little pressure on, you can create a much nicer curve on the inside. And check your outside, make sure you got a nice shape. And this is a decent size colander or berry bowl. Just kind of smooth and make sure there's no nasty kind of bits in there. Take care of the surface of the clay. Everything shows up through a glaze, unless you apply a glaze really thick. The transparency especially should be on pretty thin. And then have a look at it, make sure you got a nice shape. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit, I've got to put a handle on top of here, so I wanted this a little thicker than I normally would, but that is a nice bowl to be used as a berry bowl. If I can get this to lift up now, let me show you the profile. Nice profile. All right, okay, that's how to throw a berry bowl. The bowl is a day old now. I left them in my damp cupboard all night, so I can still bend the bowl considerably, so it's not over, anywhere close to leather hard. It's just firmed up a little. So it's at the position where if I could, I would want to do some coiling. I could just smudge the clays together without scoring and scratching, so that saves time. When I put the handles on these, I turn them upside down using this tool I've shown before in videos. It's called a harp. I got it in England. If you could make it with a piece of rebar, but it makes nice because you can cut through things with one hand. I usually cut through 2 or 3 times and then it releases easier. on there. So it's thinner because it's a guitar string than an actual cutting cheese wire that you buy to cut pottery on the wheel. So you don't leave as much clay on the wheel head. And that's when I do that. And then I roll a coil next. So rolling a coil, you basically just squish a sausage out of a piece of clay. And when it ovals like that, you tap it back down. I usually roll a coil by tapping to square it off a little bit and then push and then pull back without any pressure. Forward has got pressure, back doesn't. Everybody will have a different way of doing this, so there's no one way to do it. But if you can roll coils, you don't have to buy one of those machines that I've shown in previous videos where you can get a coil instantly through a die using it's like a caulking gun. Okay, so then I've already pulled some, rolled some. I'm using one to judge the distance, and this is completely up to you how big a handle you want. So I think I'm going to be short one piece, that's all, so I'll need to roll a little bit more. 2, 4, yeah, I got one more to go. And then this is for me, nobody has to do this, it's just an option. I like to do the rope handle type thing, where I just use the edge of a stick, not a sharp stick, a rounded stick. Then I roll it the other direction too, to give you this kind of effect. It's a nice rope handle. And then you do the other one to match. And I usually tap them together to make sure I got the right distance. By doing that, see, one is a tiny fraction. If I do that, they're both the same. Now the clay does not have to be scratched and scored, but it's a good idea to just kind of use a little water on the end of a brush just to kind of give yourself a stickiness with the clay. Make sure you get them opposite each other. So I'm just stickying up the clay. And this clay is pretty soft at the edges, and you can dip it in water, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then it'll be a little softer anyway. But all I do for my two handles on these is I position it so it's touching the back, and then I just sort of rub like that. And there's many ways you can make handles. This is just a quick way that I've discovered is a nice way to do it. And the clay is firm enough so it's not pressing in, but it will press in just a touch, but it's not collapsing. So you can see I'm putting pressure on the rim there to make it stick. Then another way of getting it so you know it's opposite is to put your stick right on the center of the pot going over the handle that way, so you know when you come this side you got it in the right position. So touching the bat and then just moving it side to side until you know you've got some sort of connection and you can feel it stops lifting up or sliding. And then you could leave it like that if you want to, but I like to smudge it in a little bit. This is more time if you wanted to leave it. As long as you've got a good kind of join, it's not going to come loose. But I think it looks a little neater. And this is going to take me about a minute to get this join down a bit neater. So you're not adding much time to the piece. But if you add up making a dozen of these, that's 12 minutes saved. So it depends on how busy you are. If you're running to a craft fair and you have to get some pieces done quickly. I used to run to craft fairs all the time. So I was always looking for shortcuts just so I could make a few pieces when I go back in the studio after driving home. I used to try and take things to craft fairs to do as well, because those sgraffito carved pieces that I make, I could make those at a craft fair. Just the carvings, not the actual pot. But I would often take a bunch of tiles, or even occasionally some mugs where I could just sit and carve one in front of people at the craft fair. People like to see it. And I had been known to put them on the roof of my van as I was packing the van and leave them there when I drove off. And so somewhere on the highway there was some sgraffito mugs that I lost. Too bad, I thought. Always rushing. No longer. Now, the handle, when you do rope handles, has a tendency to crack if you're not careful. So if you're going to do this type of handle, it's a good idea to make sure that you stop it from drying fast at the edges there. So I'm just kind of sealing up by doing this with the paintbrush, the actual rope area a little bit to, try and stop it from cracking. And I'll maybe touch a little piece of plastic just over that while the whole piece is drying. Okay, I'm going to show you 3 trimmed pieces at the moment. This is a giffin grip. If you don't have one of these, you can actually just use 3 bits of clay stuck to the wheel head to hold your piece in the center. A giffin grip just means that if you're doing production pottery, you can actually do things faster because it centers things straight away. That's just to knock off the edge a little bit. Then I use an old rib to kind of smooth off the bottom. When this started, it was round, like a kidney rib, and of course it now, as years old, it's been worn away. And then I use a pebble to run across the bottom of my piece. This is just a beach pebble, and polish the bottom a little bit. It won't scratch furniture and stuff if you do that. And that's all you have to do to the base that's going to be underneath the colander. Now, this piece has been sitting like this, as you saw earlier. It's too soft to trim, so I'm going to show it you anyway. Okay, so I know it's too soft because I can still bend the clay up like that and it doesn't snap off, but it's trimmable. So some people, and I included, would trim at this stage, but for a colander thing, which I'm going to show you, it's a bit too soft. So I'm just going to use my little handle loop tool to trim with, because the softer the clay, the trimming tools that come with most the core trim tools don't seem to work. But when you've got softer clay, you can trim with these loop tools and they work perfectly. I like to leave a fairly thick foot on my colanders because I trim out the base like this so that water can dribble out easier. If the base is flat on a plate, the water has trouble getting out. So if you put a little hollow area in there like that, and then you have the foot sitting up, I'll show you, you can actually get this flat now. And then the outside edge. All this is doable at this stage of the clay. It's a little soft for drilling holes for the colander. So these loop tools wear out fast. That's the only problem trimming with them, because it's just a thin piece of metal rather than a big flat shape of metal. But they are great for trimming clay that's a little too soft for a regular trimming tool. Okay, and then I use this little tool, and you don't have to use this one. This is an what's it called, an R2 or something. Actually, the name's gone off it. I always thought it had an R2 written on it, but it's a loop tool. It's got a square end on one end, and it's got a rounded end on the other. So I simply place it like that, turn it over, and take those out. And that way the water running out through the holes can get out from underneath the foot into the plate in general. And then it'll be a little hot. You can use a paintbrush or a sponge to smooth that up, but your finger will do a nice job too. Just pressing it down and pull it to the side. Do the same on the inside so there's no sharp edges left. But a brush with some water will make that really nice. And that's the trimming of the bottom. Now, the underside, the outside rather, I use a drill bit. If the clay was dry enough, you can actually drill through. And it won't do that. This is too soft to drill. Let's try one and hold it a bit more steady, see if it'll do a better drill. It's a little better, but it's just too soft to do at the moment. It needs to be leather hard, and or actually even just a bit past leather hard. See, the drill is actually not wobbling, but in the softer clay it just moves to the side too easily. So I'm going to wait to drill the holes on that one. This is one that's a little firmer, and so let's try drilling a couple too. It may actually still be too soft, but we'll see. Much better. Now, it's still leaving a burr, and if the clay was dry enough, or firm enough, we should say, not dry, you wouldn't get this burr on the outside. So I am going to leave these even longer to dry out a bit more, and that way when I do that, there will be a burr on the inside too. It just breaks right off. So this is crucial as far as drilling the holes and making life simple to get it at the right condition. So we're going to wait another couple of hours on doing this. Okay. This is the one I did yesterday that was just too soft, so we'll try it again today. I left them overnight wrapped in the damp cupboard. I wasn't sure. It got really cold here last night, but totally clear sky, so there was not much humidity yesterday. So let's see what we get. I started with these ones and see how irregular they were, because they were so soft that the piece wobbled a little bit. So when I do this normally, the hole doesn't get bigger. It just stays as a round hole like that. So these are now perfect. So when I'm doing this, I could just use the hand hole cutter that they sell at pottery shops, but this goes a lot quicker. And it does a really clean cut, as long as the clay is not too soft. And you can make patterns fairly quickly with this if you want to. I tend to do just a, not sure what you would call the pattern. And then I do two in between. And this is a 1/4 inch bit that I'm using, which when the glaze gets inside, of course the hole will be smaller than that, because the glaze does actually dribble down, and occasionally you have to be careful with some glazes that it doesn't block up the hole. So after you've glazed it, especially if you're double dipping or triple dipping with glazes, you will want to make sure the holes aren't blocked up. Okay, that's a fairly nice regular pattern, and then I always put some, of course, right in the center. Let's see if I can do this with a little bit of symmetry. The new studio is 1 day from being finished. They promise. So the next time they come in tomorrow, they're going to paint the floors, and that's it, except for the skirting board that goes around, which doesn't take hardly any time to go in. So he says it's about a day's work left, and that's it. Anyway, that's a berry bowl. You could do other things on it. You can do other kind of carvings, but I use a brush to actually, doesn't matter what kind of brush you do, just to brush out the inside, which is why I have my air purifier running behind me. There's the 2 holes I did originally, and they're the ones with the burr on the inside. The others don't have it. Nice, clean. So any kind of brush will do that. Same on the outside. And just rub your hands just to make sure there's no sharp areas on it. And the glaze will make anything that's sharp even sharper, so it's good to do that. They're the 2 original holes there, and they're the only ones that kind of are irregular. So it's all about timing, which is clay. Over and over, every story we tell about clay, it's always that timing is everything. And of course I could put little buttons there and there if I'd done it earlier on, but I didn't. These handles are just there to give yourself something a little harder, because people mostly bang colanders down, but they don't need to do handles. You can just bang it down the same. They just make it look better. Go. That looks nice. I have some more of these little bowls here, and this is that order for the lady who wanted 6 of them. Here is another. And this is where you pour the glazes down here and down here, but then I slip trail across and just squeeze glaze with a slip trailer across there. There is a video of me doing this early, about a year or 2 ago actually. And these are different variations. So so basically these, it's like the ocean washing in, the beach, and then you've got the landscape kind of thing with the sky at the top. And I do variations on these. I like doing these. And then the chattering on the bottom is very sweet on these. Again here. And this one is just folk art white with oatmeal on the top, and that's very nice just the way it is. Oh, look at the outside. That's very nice. Chattering. So those are the tools, artisanpotterytools.com, made by Bill Wright. There you go. I advertise those because they're really good tools, and they made my pieces really special as soon as I started using these. Because people pick a piece up, they see the top of it, but when you lift it up and then they look at the bottom, it's always that they're always going to look for the signature or the sign of the stamp, whatever, and then they see that, and it's like that makes it look special, like, you know, we took care of the bottom of the piece. But look at the orange and then the greenish there. That was a nice bowl. Is a nice bowl. This one, I'm not sure which way it goes actually. Maybe that's the sky and, oh I know, it's the water flowing through between the 2 land masses in this one. And there's the bottom as well. Well, this was a refire. was in the gas firing and it crawled somewhere up here. There's still one little bit, but that won't matter, just that one little bit. But that's beautiful. Good color in that one. This is an order. Nice piece. And then a knife. I've got a whole bunch of pictures earlier that came out. I think they were in the gas kiln, but we had a couple left over. It's weird that that always dribbles down. Occasion, doesn't always, but you get that every so often. But that's just part of the piece. And a whole bunch of little lotion pumps. That, ooh, two. The stilt collapsed. Darn it! Darn it! Darn it! And that's too much. That you'll never get those apart. I can force it. No, I can't. But they were both nice pieces, and the stilt collapsed. You get that occasionally. It's part of what we have to accept as potters. You can like do everything you can to make a piece succeed, and you still get a mechanical failure or something. That's just another nice one, though. That's got some nice quality to that one too. Matte turquoise and blues by the look of it. Here's another one. I think we actually, as potters, have learnt to never kind of expect perfection, because it's always going to be elusive. And you try your best and you just have to accept what you get. It's when my wife spends a whole day painting a piece, and then it would, in the old days, we used to lose 1 in 5, 6 pieces. And I've refined my firing schedules since then, so I can actually guarantee just about everything succeeds. That's very nice. That's like a desert southwest coloring. And then the bright yellow, which has been very popular this summer, because we all need happiness and and good thoughts and cheery colors. There we go, another very happy piece. I like seeing yellow. It's just reminds you of sunlight, I guess. Okay, next layer down, a couple more of these bowls. And these are special orders. Actually, it's still that dinner set that I did. In fact, these are the two I will send. These are very much like the dinner set. And there's another one, like the one I just took out earlier, with the green bottom. This is kind of a coloring I do all the time that sells very well. And a beautiful chun green bowl. Oh, look at that. Chun green and apple green where they made. That is just classic, I think. And the chattering does show up in the apple green, which is always nice too. And 3 more lotion pumps in purple. And one with the blue with the chun green, which is quite nice. I like that too. Got some good colors. The electric kiln always gives brighter colors. Now the bottom, it's not the bottom, it's the next bottom, is actually a bunch of landscape cove bowls in different colors. I just had an order for some, so I did some variations on a theme. And this is the one where the cove is washing in, and we're given a blue sky here instead of the usual oatmeal sky that I do. So just variations on a theme. And I like the black, obviously, so I'm doing a bunch of these in the black, which turned out really nice. The black is the matte black, and then just variegated blue, bright blue, mouse gray, and oatmeal to give the feeling of like an Icelandic scene. Of course, we used to think of that as Nova Scotia, but now we're becoming tropical. The temperature, I mean, this is almost the end of October, and I've still got impatiens petunias flowering out there. I have a tropical vine. The flowers are just gorgeous this year. So, and the tropical vine is still blooming. And there's another one. These are sort of really pretty. There's the outside, what it looks like. There's a lot of chattering on the outside. You can kind of get a gist of it, but sometimes it gets covered up a bit by the glaze. That one's very nice. Looks like a snow-covered mountain in the background there. And the outside on this one's very pretty too. And then she's just gone on a bike ride, so I'll unload these. She has some of her fish trays that are hand carved. She doesn't use stamps for these, she just carves them out each time. So they're much more time consuming.